What a disaster for the Edmonton Oilers. After making back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, the Oilers are out in the first round. That sounds bad in itself, but when you look deeper, it's even worse. The Edmonton Oilers had a worse record than my Washington Capitals, who didn't make the playoffs. But because they were gifted an easy route to the conference finals. They got to play a Anaheim Ducks team who I'm impressed by the Ducks, but this is their first time in the playoffs. They only had 92 points. The Oilers had 93 points. They lost half their games. They were an average team this year. That is completely unacceptable when you have one of the greatest players in the history of the sport on your team in his prime and another guy who's a top 5 player in the league. It is unbelievable how the Oilers have mismanaged this whole thing. I mean, just go back to 2015 when McDavid was drafted. They have tried to solve the goaltender issue for 11 years, and they still haven't found a goalie. They tried Cam Talbot, they tried Mike Smith, they tried Jack Campbell, they tried Stuart Skinner, and they tried Tristan Jarry. None of it's worked. They haven't found a goalie. The Oilers also let some of their young guys go in Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, who they just didn't match the offer sheets from the St. Louis Blues. And they're just like, we're good. We don't need these two guys we took in the first round back-to-back years. We'll take a compensatory second-round pick and a compensatory third-round pick instead. And it's not even like they got that much money from the Blues. Ryan McLeod, they traded away. It was a really good depth piece. Um, Darnell Nurse, they gave 8 years and 9.25 million. He is not a great defenseman at all. He's a second pair guy at best, probably a bottom pair guy if you're being honest, with where Darnell Nurse is at. And they gave him over $9 million. And then think of the GMs they've also hired. They hired Ken Holland in like 2019. Ken Holland built the dynasty in Detroit with the Red Wings, but that was over 10 years ago. The recent track record for Ken Holland was not very good. He tried to keep the Red Wings mediocre and just keep the playoff streak going by just signing old veterans and just like, we're going to continue being mediocre. And he was past his expiration date, really. And ever since the salary cap was implemented, Ken Holland has not been a good GM. And pre-salary cap, he was when he built those Red Wings teams. I know the Red Wings won the Cup in 08, but that was a team built pre-salary cap. They fire him. Who's the next GM they have? Stan Bowman, another guy who built a dynasty with the Chicago Blackhawks, 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years. But since then, Stan Bowman, before the allegations of covering up sexual assault with the whole Kyle Beach situation, even before that, when he got fired for that, Blackhawks fans were on Stan Bowman. They were not liking what he did. This is the same guy that traded Artemi Panarin for Brandon Saad. This is the same guy who gave Seth Jones an 8-year deal at $9.5 million. Now, Seth Jones is a good defenseman now, I would say, but for Chicago, they were coming off really 4 straight years of not making the playoffs, and they're like, we're going to go all in. And they just botched it, and really his moves forced the Blackhawks into the rebuild, the deep rebuild that they are still in today. They hire that guy as their GM. They hire back-to-back guys who were great 10 years ago and have not done anything in the past decade. I mean, that is just malpractice by the Oilers. This is one of the worst run organizations in sports. I know they made back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, but if we're being real, this team does not make good moves at all. Outside of lucking into McDavid and they got Draisatl, but that was over 10 years ago. They got those guys then. But building the depth of this team, they've not been able to do for over a decade. And that's just really embarrassing. They may have, the window may be shut now. We'll see. But I just think the Oilers, I don't think it's talked about enough how bad of an organization they are because yes, they made 2 Stanley Cup finals. Yes, they've had playoff success before this year's bad year. But this year is when those moves finally caught up. And even in their best years, they still weren't able to win at all. They lost to the Florida Panthers. They couldn't get over the hump. So yeah, the Oilers need to change things up. They need to fire Stan Bowman. They need to get a younger, fresher GM, or else McDavid's probably gonna be gone.